edition, right, Jenna? A little different with Let's Talk Football Live since we pushed the main show till Monday night, so we can do it as a pregame show.
Yeah, we're trying out a new setup here, if you could not tell. But we're excited to talk a little bit about the Bills as they get ready. Say another, a weekend where we won't have Bills football. The Bills are not playing at 1:00 on Sunday. But Dan, I think that shows that they're about to get that prime time national exposure, and a lot of Bills fans should be excited about that.
Yeah, they seem to be coming into form, I guess, especially the defense. And obviously they're coming in with for the second time this year, the reigning defensive player of the week. And it's who we all expected to win the award all season long, the star offseason signing that was AJ Klein. And hello, Terrell Leo Brock, for coming in and watching us here on Let's Talk Football Live. So yeah, obviously AJ Klein, massive game against the Chargers, 14 tackles, 1.5 sacks. He leads the Bills in sacks because, Jenna, who didn't see that coming?
It's an amazing thing when you look at, I know I even tweeted out, like, trust the process, because early on it was hard to trust the process, Mike. We had, AJ Klein coming in, a guy that played under Sean McDermott in Carolina. And it's interesting because we got to talk to him after the Chargers game, and he said the fact that when he was in Carolina with Sean McDermott, he was a middle linebacker. And now coming to Buffalo, obviously Tremaine Edmunds is their guy there. So he had to learn a whole new position. He said that he crafts himself on being able to pick up and play multiple positions. I think early on in the season, it kind of threw him for a loop, especially with the weird offseason. But Mike, I mean, it's a good issue to have. You have AJ Klein being AFC Defensive Player of the Week, and then you also have Matt Milano, who's back to practice.
Yeah. Can I apologize something right away?
Go ahead, Mike. Yep, go ahead. I know what you're going to say.
Well, since I'm the technical whiz and I tried to set things up for some reason, the show, Let's Talk Football Live, which you plainly see there, is listed on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube page as test in all capital letters. At least it was good that I did not put something inappropriate, but it's all caps. I am screaming test.
Test.
Wow.
So here's the plus. The plus is that it's working, that we're on YouTube, and we're getting people. Let's go Buffalo. Look at this. Brandon Nash.
Dan saying good evening. April, let's
switch
go Buffalo.
To 50.
Switch to 5G.
Oh, I'm looking. Oh, it looked like a 50. 5G. Wait a minute. So is my screen's not coming up clear?
No. Looks like you might
I
have.
don't know.
I don't know. PJ said I was sitting on the other page waiting.
What other page?
It does say test. We have confirmation that it says.
So we'll worry about that. So
Mike is a resident IT guy. He usually figures some stuff out, but there's always some fun hiccups along the way.
Yeah, and this was not the intent. Oh, 5G. I got you, Brandon. Yeah, well, I don't know what's going on. I've been fine on the my connection here. Look at that. Dan can see all of us. That's good.
I'm just clarifying to people on Twitter that this is not a test. This is real.
Yes.
It's not a test. This is real. We are going live. This was planned.
Have you thought that maybe we just changed the name of the show to Test?
Yep. There it is.
Caps.
Just shouting test.
All right. So I've just distracted us here from the main point, which was the idea that, the Bills have a linebacker problem that most teams would like to have right now because they've got 3 of them that can play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Mike, we've kind of talked about it, and we'll talk about it on 13 Wham tonight, but just the fact of you got to kind of stick with AJ Klein. I mean, you have to roll with the hot hand, and I never thought I would say that when Matt Milano went down, but the fact that AJ Klein has played too well to take him off the field right now, and I think that that's what you'll see from Sean McDermott and to see from, we want to see your comments as well about what you think, because look, I'll put my hand up. I was as hard on anybody for the way that AJ Klein played, and he deserved all of the criticism that he got for the last few early on in the season. But the last few weeks, last 4 weeks, he's probably played the best football of his career. And he kind of acknowledged that today, but just added that he thinks that there's better football on the horizon. But Jenna, this isn't a secret that why he's playing better, right?
No, it's not. I think he's had time in the system and he's been able to kind of figure out his role. And I think it's a great problem to have. And I know I said that before, and my light is dying because this is only a test. But no, I think it's a great situation in terms of you're getting Matt Milano back as the playoffs are around the corner. And also you can kind of work in Matt Milano. You don't need to rush him out onto the field. You have someone that's been consistent over these last couple of weeks and has been not just consistent, but an impact player. And that's hard to come by. So I think it works out well for the Bills. Obviously, they didn't want to have to place Milano on the injured reserve for those couple of weeks, but really seeing the steps that AJ Klein has taken over these last 3 weeks, it's been impressive to see, and it's a benefit to the Bills now as they get ready. These are really the quote dress rehearsal games too, as they approach that end of the regular season.
Yeah. Hey, I want to answer a comment. Paul, who usually is one of the people that's been watching our show, wants to know why we're not in the studio. We just had shifted the main show to Monday night. So we're going to be on Monday night, 7:30 to 8. It's going to be on Facebook, YouTube, also on 13 Wham TV, leading right into the game. Once we had made that shift, changed our schedule around to make it more of a pregame show, we still decided, we didn't want everybody to miss out on the chance to hear me pontificate about everything that's going on this week. So that's the only reason. And yeah, we are keeping the numbers limited. We want everybody to stay safe. The numbers don't look good for the whole area, country, world at the moment. So our time in the studio is limited, but we can get to you and you can get to us doing it this way. So we're enjoying it doing it this way right now.
Yeah, I think this is the best way we've done it, is also just the fact that all of our comments now from all of the different sites, from Facebook and YouTube and Periscope, are all coming up to us. So there are times before when we've been in studio, Mike's monitoring one account, I'm monitoring another account. So this is kind of nice. And go Dan Fates. That's right.
Look at that.
First of all, I just want to comment on how great that username is, Buffalo Wangs.
Yeah,
go Dan Fates. I love it. Did Dan say hello from my son? Sinclair is asking. Dan.
Hi, Sinclair.
Yep, I was going to say.
Why not have people in the stadium? I think that this is some of that talk is above. The NFL is making every adjustment they can. Right now, the league is hanging on to dear life. I think they are doing everything they can as cases are rising, not only around the country, they're rising in the league. They have shut down facilities on Mondays and Tuesdays now. You can go in the building. Sean McDermott's like me in his basement, going over film and having his meetings because of the rise in COVID cases. So I don't think that there are going to be fans at any Bills game. I think that you are going to see fans. I'm questionable if there will be fans in playoff games. Roger Goodell came out this week and says he doesn't think a bubble is going to happen. But it is what it is. And I think we want to, more comments and more talk, Mike, about the Bills heading into this week and coming out of another win.
Yeah. And this week's going to be an interesting one with the Niners. I know it's strange that they're playing the game in Arizona, but we all know, without fans there, the setting doesn't really matter. It's more about the getting there and getting to the game. The Niners play there every year. The Bills play, and they already have played there, right? The Bills play there. I think they played in Arizona this year. Of course, obviously, the Bills have played there. I don't think that matters as much. Bills just have to travel a little farther. But look, the Niners are a beaten-up team, but they're well-coached. They still believe they're in it to try to sneak in the playoffs, and they're not going to be an easy team to play this week. I don't think so at all.
No, and they're also coming off a win, which I know, they have a losing record, but I think that's really important considering they have momentum, they have belief in this team. I know Nick Mullins is, who's Nick Mullins, their quarterback, but at the same point, he's been able to manage games and keep the team together. And you have, Shanahan, who's also, Jordan Poyer was talking earlier this week. They spent time together in Cleveland when they were both there. And he said he's one of the best in the league, and just the window dressing that he can do makes it and confuses defenses. And it's going to be a challenge for the Bills. And especially, I think a lot of fans are worried about the Bills' run defense. And I think the 49ers are going to try and exploit that. So
yeah.
We're going to see. I feel like last week we saw the Bills' defense take a step forward. Now I think this will be a test in terms of just the run defense and to see where that's at as well.
Yeah, I was more nervous, I think, last game, just knowing that the Chargers are a more explosive offense that have had bigger plays. This Niners team is interesting for the fact of we know what the Bills' weakness is on the defense, and that's stopping the run. That's something the 49ers do very well for a team where Kyle Shanahan is so intelligent and cutting edge and one of those great young coaching minds in the NFL. He plays a physical running style. And it's interesting, Mike, you always talk about it's not who you play, it's when you play them. And I think that the way that AJ Klein has been playing in the last few weeks, as well as the way that Tremaine Edmonds has been playing downhill and aggressive, I think this is the best case scenario for the Bills to play the Niners this week, because of the way that Klein is playing downhill against the run, the way that Tremaine Edmonds looks the best that he's played all year, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I would think their defense as a whole. But again, I still do worry about the D-line. I mean, it's nice to see, that Klein made 14 tackles last week and he got behind the line of scrimmage. But I just don't see enough out of their defensive line, and that's what worries me. I think the Niners realize who they are. They were a Super Bowl team last year. Jen and I were down at the game. They were close to knocking off Kansas City and winning the thing. And then it went south. And then it's really gone south this year. So I think they've sort of found themselves again, where you sort of reset everything and you go, look, we ain't winning the division, but we can sneak in. We can prove that we're still a good team with all the injuries. And I think they'll play loose. I do. I mean, they get Richard Sherman back. He played well last week. They get Raheem Mostert back. I mean, Nick Mullins is Nick Mullins. I'm not a huge Jimmy Garoppolo fan anyhow. Somebody, PJ's saying that Deebo Samuel sat out of practice. And the game's not until Monday, so I'm not as, he's coming off an injury.
Good point, though.
He played great last week, though.
Yep.
So this team is, again, why teams fight, right? What is it in a team? I think they have a lot of pride. And Dan, you're right. Last week's team was more explosive. This team is better coached. There's no doubt they're better coached.
Mike, that's hard to be worse coached. I think the Jets are the only team that is worse coached in the NFL. And I think we beat that dead horse over the last few days about just how bad Anthony Lynn is at head coaching. And somebody made the point on Twitter that the last game, Rex got fired week 16, and then the Bills went to New York to play the Jets, and that was the game that Lynn coached that the Bills didn't pick up the kickoff at the end of the game.
Yeah, that's right.
The Jets just picked up the football. Nobody on the Bills picked up the kickoff. That was the epitome. When somebody pointed that out, I was like, yeah, that sounds like an Anthony Lynn coach team. That sounds about right.
That was a mess.
Bad. Yeah, that was.
That was a mess. That was, I believe, Tyrod did not start in that game, right? There was a weird issue, something about that, and about him not playing. I'm trying to remember.
EJ played.
EJ played.
And
we got comments from EJ DeGoat. Are you talking about EJ? Are you talking about EJ Manuel? And EJ DeGoat says, I think the Bills are the second best team in the NFL.
Okay, well, who's the best?
Well, the Chiefs are the best team.
Okay, good. It's not the Steelers.
No, and you know what? It's funny. I look at the Steelers and say, when people go after the Steelers, it's only because they are. EJ says in the AFC. Okay, but that's fine. I don't even know who in the NFC is great at the moment. But when you look at it and you say, what they do and what they do well, I think the Steelers are a really good team. It just happens to be that they're undefeated. So that goes like you almost have to say they're the best team, and they're good, And they're going to be obviously have a shot to go all the way. If they stay number one, they're going to get a bye for the first game. But Bills are going to beat them. A week from Sunday, Bills are winning that game.
I could not agree more. I think that's going to be a grinded out type of game. But I just think seeing the way they played on yesterday afternoon, that was weird. I was not prepared. Sorry, I was just reading that comment. It's an interesting comment. But no, I think the Steelers are very vulnerable. Like, for their record. Do
you write the songs, Jenna?
I don't even know what that means. I'll have to look up what Barry Manilow looks like. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, for their record and being undefeated, there are a lot of things to exploit, I think.
Yeah,
and
that's next week. But that's next week. For this week, it's the Niners.
Yes, yeah. That's next week. I'm now going to Google Barry Manilow.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to like it.
Sean, are you being mean?
Debbie Kinzer also had a good comment. Kaiser, now that our defense is stepping up.
Sean, done with you. Sorry, Dan, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I just thought Debbie Kaiser had a good comment. She said that now that the defense is stepping up, our offense needs to get a little better. And yeah, I mean, I think the bigger problem was the issue with the defense. I think that's been one of the biggest issues this season. So I don't know. I think that the offense, look, we talked about it too. The Bills yesterday or Sunday, whatever day it is now, this COVID world we're living in, the Bills had Josh Allen threw for only 157 yards. They turned the ball over 3 times. They had horrible penalties, and they still scored 27 points. In the NFL this season, like, the bar has been raised so much that when the Bills don't score 30 points, we all think that the offense had a terrible day. When last year they only scored 27 points 3 times, and 2 of them were against the Dolphins. So, last year, if they would have scored 27 points, we would have wanted to throw a parade for Josh Allen in this offense. The floor has been raised. We always talk about this ceiling that can score 40 points. Well, the floor is pretty good too, because if you can turn the ball over 3 times in 7 plays and still win, again, the Bills don't want to do that every single week. But I think it does say something. It's like a pitcher who can win a game when he doesn't have his A stuff, when he can throw his B game and C game and still claw out a win. I thought that was a big win for the Bills in avoiding an ugly, ugly loss.
Yeah, that would have been a bad one. An AFC loss. The Dolphins are still just a game back. And, you just got to try to figure how the rest of the year is going to go. That loss that the Dolphins had, to the Broncos was huge for Buffalo. But, this is a tough game on the road, coming home. And I say they're going to win, but it's against the Steelers, who haven't lost a game yet. Yes, Josh Norman's going to be back for this week, at least what it looks like. He talked today. And then, you still have at Foxborough and the Denver game. They might even have a quarterback by then. So you got the Denver game on a Saturday and then Foxborough, and then you end with the Dolphins. So this is a very big game for the Bills in total record. Obviously, it's an NFC team, but right now they're trying to stay ahead of Miami, get closer to a division title. It's kind of mind-boggling to me that they haven't won it in 25 years, win the division. That's hard to do. That's Detroit Lions territory, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't think the Lions. Yeah, maybe the Lions did once. I'm trying to remember. They made the playoffs. Yeah.
You think of how good the Patriots have been,
right?
And I think that makes. Sorry, my light is dying. Of course. PJ has a good question. You guys, we can still compete offensively without John Brown the next couple of games. I thought Gabriel Davis played very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Gabe Davis stepped up and filled that role really well. Look, I think we've talked about before a couple of times this year that while John Brown isn't a valuable player on the Bills offense, he's probably one of the most important.
Let me tell you.
So is Jenna camera from – come on, Manilow. Hold it together over there.
This has been a bad show. Look at the light.
Okay.
Look at this light. This is outrageous.
Where did you get that?
From the station.
Oh my. Well, we just want everybody who's watching to know this is the Jenna we all
You guys see her all composed on the air.
Hey, by the way, I'm gonna say something. I don't want to upset all of our followers here about John Brown. I don't think John Brown's on the team next year.
Ooh. I mean, I can kind of see why you have Gabe Davis stepping up.
I don't think he's on the team. I think they can save about $7 million against the cap next year. I think they love John Brown, but the NFL is about where you're going, not what you've done. I think he's going to be 31 next year. You've got Diggs. You've got Gabe that you drafted. They may go out and sign another receiver or draft another one. I don't know exactly what they would do. I'm not saying 100%, and I think it's you got to stay on the field, and he's a speed guy who's going to be on the wrong side of 30. I think these are tough decisions to make, and I like their team so much better when he's on the field. But if I'm betting right now, I say he's not on the team next year.
I just don't see why they would break that up. If they don't have to. This team is so big on continuity, and I think you also have to factor in how weird of a year this is, Mike, and to know that I think people will be more inclined to just run it back one more year.
I think it's about the money. I had a conversation with Brandon Beane at the Combine back a long, long time ago when it was normal, like this year, earlier. And I asked him about drafting wide receivers because we knew the Bills were in the market and they were going to be drafting a wide receiver. And we're signing one, and they end up with Diggs, obviously, and then they made the draft. And he said something really interesting. I'm going to find this soundbite. It was about picking players, and I said, "Do you draft based on who you have currently on your roster?" As in, I got a speed guy in John Brown, I got a slot guy in Cole Beasley, and he said, "That's not the way I look at it. I bring players in that I think can play in our offense." And he goes, then you also have to keep in mind, you draft a rookie, he comes in, and if he's good enough, maybe a year later, you still have him under that rookie pay scale for another couple of years, and you can move on from a veteran. Now, when he said that, they didn't have Stephon Diggs, and John Brown was their number one guy. I think Gabe Davis has shown them enough that I think they feel confident in him going forward. This is no they got to cut John Brown because John Brown will get a job in a heartbeat. But you want to sign Milano, you want to sign John Feliciano maybe next year, maybe even Darrell Williams if they decide he's played well, he started. If they want to sign him, they're gonna have to find the money somewhere.
Yeah, I just think that they have rave reviews of him. Everything we hear outside or inside the locker room, or now this year on Zooms, that John Brown just being what he's brought to this team, his leadership, all those things. I know you got Diggs, you got Beasley. I know they can't be there forever. That's not the way the league works. And I remember Mike being in Houston, excuse me, and they talked about how good this team thought they were, and how upset that they went, we're not all going to be back next year. That's just not how this works. So I think that some people are saying there's no way. Why would you get rid of John Brown? There are players in this team that are good. Matt Milano is another key example. Guys that just probably won't be back next year because of whether it's money, whether it's an injury, whether there's somebody else better that's cheaper out there. So I can see there, like I said, I don't think we can be naive and go, well, this is the team that they're going to have for a couple of years now.
Right. I mean, that's part of it. They now have players, longtime Bills fans know there was a lot of years where they didn't want the guys they had brought in and nobody else wanted them either, right? Or there was the occasional really good player who took off. They got a lot of good players on this team. This roster has talent. They can't keep everybody, and the cap's going to go down next year. I'm not trying to depress people about next year. This December, team's in first place. They got a great chance to win the division. Let's see what they can do in the playoffs. But this is the kind of thing with that cap number going down that you got to look at. And it's nice to have a guy like Gabe Davis. He stepped up. Davis, they needed him, and he stepped up this past week. So, you look at it and say that's a plus because not that he's John Brown, but he can fill a role.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think we focus on that because as reporters, we're always looking down the line. But I think it's something that's realistic and something that Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott will have to figure out as they go forward. But for the immediate future ahead, you've been impressed by what Gabe Davis has been able to do, especially as a rookie and especially as someone that, we always said in this summer, wow, I can't imagine being a rookie trying to acclimate to the NFL, but then having everything really be, over Zoom and things like that. He's really separated himself in terms of being able to make an immediate impact. Whereas a lot of other rookies, it takes time for them to really hit their stride within the league.
Yeah, it's a good point. Sean O'Keefe saying you can't pay Milano. He's just too hurt. I think we've had that conversation before a couple of times. And we talked about it earlier this week saying not that AJ Klein is going to be the difference of whether or not they pay Matt Milano, but it could be the difference on lessening the blow if he leaves and if the Bills set their cap at a certain number. And they say, we think Milano is worth X millions of dollars. And if somebody wants to pay him $1 million or $2 million over that, well, then that's fine because we feel like we're okay with AJ Klein, who, as Jenna pointed out earlier, has adjusted to being from a middle linebacker and backing up what he thought would have been, Tremaine Edmonds, and he's backed up Luke Kuechly to now playing an outside linebacker. And it seems that he's really kind of fit the role.
Yeah, I think that's important to look at. And it's not always like you're keeping this guy because you think he's as good or better. You've got to map out, a 53-man plus roster, and you've got to prioritize things you're going to pay for. And, they drafted Matt Milano in the 5th round, which is an excellent draft pick. And I think it's important for Matt Milano in Buffalo or maybe somewhere else to stay on the field the rest of the year and to play into the playoffs and show what he can do because he plays hard. He is one of the few – there's not that many great cover linebackers in the NFL. He can run, and he's got good instincts to cover people, but you got to stay on the field. And I think that's going to be a key thing for him.
Yeah, we also –
Dennis saying that
go ahead.
Go ahead, Jenna.
No, I also think when you talk about money and looking down the line, we also have to think about Josh Allen and his contract and what that will mean and how that will change things as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. Dennis saying that Klein is greater than Milano, which is something that everybody's head would have exploded and would have been, nobody would have said that 3 weeks ago until Klein plays a great game against Seattle. And then obviously he has a phenomenal game last week against the Chargers. So it's a good problem to have, as Jenna said earlier. And then PJ says Klein. Yeah, obviously. It's nice to have depth. You just don't want to have to use it because I've been the one that says that, Matt Milano is going to get paid this year by somebody. Yeah. His injuries have been a concern, but yeah, they are different kinds of linebackers. Milano, like you said, Mike, is kind of that unicorn. We saw him against the Rams cover Cooper Kupp in the slot, and then he can also cover a tight end. He can also come up and make plays. I'm one of Matt Milano's biggest fans, but if you're a team in Brandon Beane looking to spend millions of dollars, as you said, with the cap going down, you have to set your price at a certain number for a guy that it's not like this is one injury. This isn't just one broken bone. It's a broken ankle. If you were to do the body chart of Matt Milano, he looks like an operation character. Like he's just had every issue. He's had soft tissue. He's had concussions. He's had broken bones. He has had trouble trying to stay on the field. So, but he is a really good linebacker when he's on it. There's no question about it.
Yeah, and you do have to also realize, Jenna mentioned Josh Allen. In that same draft, they took Tremaine Edmonds. And, Tremaine Edmonds is, I think he's 3 years younger than Matt Milano still. He's, or whatever he is. And, so are they in line at some point to pay Tremaine Edmonds, former number 1 draft pick? They got that 5th-year option on him. Are they in line to do that? Again, you prioritize a lot of roster spots. And, it's hard to pay linebackers in the NFL. That's the truth, let alone try to pay 2 of them. It's just teams don't usually prioritize that position. And the Bills got very fortunate to get a guy in the 5th round to play as well as Milano. And obviously they signed Klein on the cheap. They knew him, relatively cheap. So, we'll see. But again, these are conversations as we go forward. For now, they need them all to play well. out in Arizona against the Niners.
And it is funny that we're talking about players that the Bills have drafted, that they have groomed, that are playing well, and all of these things. And now we're talking about you got to sign all of them, right? You just got to, like Jenna made a good point. You got to sign Josh Allen at some point. You're going to have to do all of these things. And it's just this way that Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott want to do this. They don't want to have to go and make big splashes in free agency. They love drafting players and grooming them to play their way. And then, like we saw with Deion Dawkins and Trey White, eventually, though, you're going to have to pick and choose because you can't cut or you can't sign everybody.
Yeah. I think it was Matt who asked about Josh Allen. They list him on the injured list. I think it's his ankle. It might have been two things. Ankle and what was
ankle
it?
and knee.
Ankle knee.
He practiced fine. He's, they put him on the list. Actually, the injury list is really small right now, which at this time of the year, that's a really nice thing to have. They're practicing, I'm sure, over the next few days, they'll get some veteran rest days for certain guys and all the other stuff that goes on, but they're pretty healthy. Whereas, last week on a Wednesday, they lost Cody Ford for the year, but they're pretty healthy going into this game with the Niners. So
I agree.
So we'll see what happens. Yeah. All right. Well, we are just about getting to 7:30. That's what we kind of figured for tonight. A few things to work on. I hope everyone enjoyed the test. TEST. Jenna's light and the camera flying all over the place.
Right. You guys
Dan's
getting a ring light for Christmas, Mike. Dan.
Yeah, that's true. Dan's fan club and the Barry Manilow fan club all going on at the same time. We're saying hello. Oh, that's nice. But I think we're going to wrap it up for now. Remember, if you're on here with us now, Monday night, 7:30, we'll be back on. We'll be in the studio, but we'll be back on Facebook and YouTube, so you can check us out there and see what you think. Anything else, guys? Anything else you want to bring up?
No. Appreciate all the positive comments and the good questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will work on my Wi-Fi. Jenna will work on her light. Dan doesn't have to work on anything. He's all set. Got his beard set up. He's in good shape over there. Good? All good.
Sounds good.
Right, thanks for watching, and we will talk to you guys. Remember to check us out on Monday night.